Okay, Mr. Gavin, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And this is, I think this relates to all small businesses.
Okay.
So, as a small business owner, when you get approached with contracts and projects, how do you manage the 30, 60, and 90 day terms in terms of payment for those contracts? Like, how do you manage that? That's a tough.
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's an excellent question because that's something that many small business owners have to deal with. We all try to grow our companies. We all want to, we start small. We want to continue to elevate and to grow our companies. And sometimes you get approached with an opportunity with a client or a customer that can take you and your business to that next level.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They can take you from a couple $100,000 a year to maybe a couple $1 million a year.
Right.
And then comes the little twist, which is we'll give you this work, but we may not be able to pay you, or we won't pay you until 60 days after you invoice us.
Sheesh. That's tough.
Yeah, that is tough. And I mean, some of the bigger companies do that. We've worked with a few of them, and I mean, I've heard about some that have even 90-day terms now, and then at the same time they talk about how much they want to work with small businesses and promote small businesses. But then they turn around and say, hey, well, we know you only have 6 people on your staff or 12 people,
right.
And we'll give you this work, but we can't pay you for 3 months. How are you supposed to do that? So it kind of poses the question: are they really trying to help small business, or
that's a good question.
Are they making things a little more challenging than they should be? So we've had to deal with this, and there's a couple of ways that we've overcome it. The first and most important thing that I would tell small businesses is you're going to become successful not by the projects that you take on or the projects that you win, but by the projects that you turn down. The projects that you say no to. Those are the ones that are going to take you from here to here to here to here. I've seen many small businesses, and early in my career, we've been guilty of this as well, taking on more than you can manage, biting off more than you can chew. And what happens when you do that is you may find yourself partway through the project, halfway through, close to the end. You may even get to the end of the project and completed it, but now having to wait another 2 months or 3 months to get paid is going to be difficult. It's just sometimes the burden is just too heavy. So there's a couple of other options other than saying no, of course. Factoring is one option that we've used. Another one is by approaching your customer and negotiating better terms. So the first one, factoring. Factoring is essentially a third-party payment processing company. And once you've completed your project, you completed the work, and you're prepared to invoice your customer, you invoice them through this factoring company. The factoring company will go after the customer. They'll hold the invoice and collect money from your customer. But what they'll do is they'll pay you within a week or a couple of weeks.
So you're good.
So they'll take care of you. So you don't have to wait the 60 days to 90 days. But of course, they take their percentage. Some are better than others, 2%, 5%, whatever.
Not bad.
So it's not bad, and it can really help a small business grow. So that's an option, but there are pitfalls that come with that. And this is, I can speak from firsthand experience. We've factored invoices, pretty large invoices. And then ran into problems when the customer wasn't able to pay or didn't pay or was slow with paying the factoring company.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. Let's say I invoice ABC company for $20,000, and I send that invoice to my factoring company. They send me back $19,000. And then they'll say, okay, well, we'll wait the 60 days
Yeah.
and collect the money from the factoring company or from the customer. Sounds good. 60 days comes now, and they call you, excuse me, Mr. Ireland, but we still haven't received this money from your customer. Okay, so now I'm left with, okay, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, you have to go after them. So the factoring company may say, okay, well, we'll go after them, but then they may hear something back from the customer like, well, Mr. Ireland, the company, that we found issues with the work, or you know, the work wasn't completed satisfactorily,
Right.
you know, or you know, our customer isn't paying us, so we're not paying you.
And this is 60
You know,
days later,
this
so
is 60
the work
days
is already
later.
done, and they hadn't even come back to you to say the work was done unsatisfactory. So you're not hearing, you've never heard it 60 days.
Right. So now the factoring company may come and say, well, we're going to charge back this money that we paid you, which means we're going to deduct $20,000 out of any future invoices that we send to you, or you owe us this $20,000. So now as a small business, you're kind of stuck in the middle now. Okay, well, what do I do? I've already, you know, I paid my employees, I paid my vendors.
Right.
I don't have this money,
Yeah.
you know, so I won't be able to pay you back. So now it kind of leaves you in a sticky situation, and it you know, it can make or break you. So, you know, we've had to deal with some situations similar to that. You know, factoring companies, and sometimes even the factoring companies, we've had to deal with one particularly, and it has seemed as though they weren't able to pay us in the 5 days or 7 days, you know, whatever issues that they had. So, you know, so those are some of the small business situations that I've faced when it comes to factoring. So you have to be very careful. It's not a silver bullet. You know, it's not a magic wand that's gonna solve all your problems. It could come back to bite you. So you have to be very careful of what customers you choose to factor, and what invoices you use to factor as well. So you have to be very careful with that, because you don't want that to come back to you down the road.